Good day. It is Phyllis Raleigh again with Goddess University, and we are doing an audio interview across a couple of oceans today. And I have the pleasure and the privilege of interviewing Maria Wheatley with the Avonberry Experience. And we're going to talk about her site and her work. But I just wanted to give a little background. If you have paid attention to my new interest in ley lines and vortexes, it was because of an interview I happened to hear about how we as beings have meridian lines, and so does Mother Gaia. And no surprise, but I hadn't paid attention to them, and I wanted to listen to what Mother says and what's going on her, so we can support um, and take care of her better by bringing the peace she wants and we want back to the planet. And I am a fan of Project Camelot, and Carrie was there interviewing, and I got to quickly jump in on the interview she did with Maria, and just was blown away by it and was so grateful. And it was honestly, it was a nice um, interview in comparison to the dark and the whistleblowers, and oh Lord have mercy, they're out to get us. So it was a pleasant to have lunch with you ladies that day or wherever you were in the cafe, and just say, wow, that's nice. This is some news I can use and information I can do something with. So thank you, Maria, for joining us today at Goddess University.
Thank you for having me, Phyllis. It's a pleasure to talk with you today.
Well, it has been a few interesting months. When I got started on this on August 8th, President Obama had just fired missiles into Iraq, and August 9th is when Ferguson, Missouri blew up with the Mike Brown being shot by the police. And watching those things happen parallel is what caught my attention, because they were so quick and it was such a flash action that made me look at this work a little more differently. And you're a second generation um, with this experience in geomancy. So can you tell me a little bit about maybe a little bit how you grew up with this world and what that was like for you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yes, you're right. I'm a second generation dowser, which
Hmm.
is, commonly called a geomancer here in the UK.
Yes.
Like, you say feng shui in China, but really focusing on the land rather than placement of objects. So I grew up with the understanding that there was more to life than,
Mm.
everyday reality, and that behind the patterns of the earth and the land upon we live basically has a living entity, which is expressed in things like ley lines, earth currents, and lots of different types of energies and grid systems which make up our planet. And depending upon where you live and how you relate to these energies can be beneficial or detrimental, depending where you are. So I grew up with the understanding that where we lived, how we lived in harmony with the earth was exceptionally important. And my late father, he studied Stonehenge, Avebury, and lots of sites across Europe and some in America, such as Serpent Mound and Newark. And I kind of followed in his footsteps, if you like, and have continued his work. And I'm very interested in underground water systems, in ley energy systems, not just like a ley line. And that's really where my work has evolved as a dowser, to look at all these different energies and how they influence and interact with our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies alike.
Thank you. I had a question now, going back with your father. How did he get involved with dowsing? Do you know?
Well, I think it's really always been an interest in the way he would look at things would be
Okay.
through Dowsing medium. So, and for me, it was an easy medium. Although I'm qualified in astrology and feng shui and some holistic health practices such as reflexology and past life regression, for example. So, all of those different kind of key skills help to understand to work a bit more intimately about Mother Earth, I suppose. So yes, so I've qualified in quite a few things, but my speciality is dowsing.
Wow. And is there a dowsing association where you can find dowsers in your own community?
In the States, I presume, because I write for the American Dowsing Society
Oh,
journal.
good. Mm-hmm.
So I think for people listening in the USA, that would be your port of call. But I mean, today it's not just about following one society. You can find dowsers all over the world through the medium of Skype, just like what we're doing now,
Right.
and interact on that level. But I would say back to basics for US listeners, definitely the American Dowsing Society.
Okay. And what would you use typically call a dowser for? And I know there's two different types of dowsing.
There are lots of different schools of dowsing.
Mm.
I would use dowsing, for example, to have a look at somebody's home, especially if there was an illness or there's some kind of, energy that is felt and needs to be adjusted. Because, the world is surrounded by lots of different grid systems, naturally a part of Gaia and a part of the ionosphere as well. And these can influence, our health. So I would look at somebody's house. I would look at how they're living in that area. I would harmonize that area for them as well. And on the other kind of branch of dowsing, I would look at, the earth energies, if there's any lays in the vicinity, and harmonize or energize those depending on the needs of the place and the needs of the people, because it's very important really to be in harmony with the earth, and by in harmony I just mean aware of where you are, aware of the color dynamics of the earth, aware of the frequencies of the earth and how these can influence us, because if by a happy chance we happen to be on a really positive grid system, we can consciously tap into that. And that too can help us in our life. And so I would work on that level. I also do a lot of UK ley line tours. For example, I've got one coming up in September next year, where we travel a ley, such as the St. Michael Ley, and we look at all of the ancient sites upon that line. And we interact with the energies there, understand how to recognize the energy so that when we go back home, we can relate to the earth through what we've learned by following a lay in this country. And
Ah,
that's really quite popular.
is that a physical tour then as well?
Yeah, yeah, and
Okay.
it also encompasses a certificate through my esoteric school, which is the Avery School of Esoteric Studies. So you can come along and travel a lay and look at some of the most amazing temple spaces in the UK and interact with those energies, because even though they are really condensed at places like obviously Stonehenge and Avery, there are other energies that entwine with these that we can find globally, worldwide, and that we may live above. So it's not just looking about the massive types of energies there, it's looking at the kind of smaller veins that feed into these main arteries and how we can interpret that to live in harmony with that wherever we are on the planet.
Well, now that opens up a whole door of everyone going, well, where do I live and how do I find that out? Is it I figured it out by just dropping a pin on a Google map and seeing what the latitude and longitude was. But you mentioned earlier when someone is sick in a house. So can you talk a little more like that? I mean, are we talking about a consistent colds or allergies, or we're talking cancer and heavier illnesses, because that's a broad range.
Yeah, well, it's basically what we call over here in the UK a geopathic stress.
Hmm.
And that's what we're dealing with in somebody's home if you become ill. Geopathic stress is basically toxic earth energies or
Hmm.
negative earth energies, depending on how you want to, use the sort of terminology you want to use. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been found, especially by European Master Dowsers, that if you live, for example, on the crossing point of particular grids, if you live with particular types of underground water, that is known to produce long-term exposure to that, 5 years plus, so to speak, can influence the physical body and produce cancers if you're prone to them. If you're prone to that in your DNA, do you see what I mean? That would
Yes.
likely manifest. So there was a huge survey done in Germany by Dr. Banis, and she studied over 8,000 people, and she came to the conclusion categorically that a third of all hospital admissions were down to geopathic stress, for instance, and that again the long-term exposure to geopathic stress will gradually break your immune system down. It kind of weakens it, if you like.
Sure.
So those areas are what we look at. We look at the geopathic stress zones. Geopathic stress manifests in the physical body in particular ways that one can recognize.
Hmm.
By that I mean, for example, if I on average wake up between say 2 and 3 in the morning, that could be a sign of geopathic stress. I wake up feeling tired, I grind my teeth, I have night sweats, I just really find it difficult to get to sleep. I avoid certain areas in the bed. All of those are indications of geopathic stress buildup within the physical body. So they're recognizable symptoms, just like you have a symptom for a cough or a cold. You can get to the back of it by understanding the symptoms that somebody's manifesting. Children are especially sensitive to geopathic stress zones, and you can just have a look at a child's bed and see if they avoid a certain part of the bed by moving their knees away from something. So probably unconsciously moving themselves away from a grid line, for example, or whatever is in the house.
Right.
So there's some things that we can have a look at, and all it takes to learn to dowse and interact with these is a standard course somewhere. Again, you can apply for dowsing courses online, such as
Mm-hmm.
my own esoteric school, or you can learn through a dowser. To try and do it self-taught through a book, yeah, you can do, but it's always better to learn from another dowser, because you'll learn the pros and the cons, and you will learn a bit faster.
Sure. And how large, when you're saying a child will move his foot from a bed, so how big of a space are we talking? Is how wide is a ley line?
Well, ley lines, they're not really too much of a problem. The main kind of problems within a house you'd be looking for would be called the curry net. That's probably about 15 centimeters wide, for example.
Mm.
But you get other grid systems like the Banker grid system, which can be up to 30 centimeters wide. And then you can get very vast, much larger global systems that can be up to a meter wide. So they do vary in width. And we imagine like a grid system coming out of the earth in a 3D wall effect. So if I'm on the bottom floor of an apartment block, it doesn't matter if I'm 10 stories above or below, because it's coming out of the ground like a big wall going up and up and up and up to the ionosphere. That's a grid. And you imagine it by like a fishnet put over the planet, and that give you some indication. And the curry net, for example, the toxic points are roughly speaking in your latitude probably about sort of 7 meters apart.
Okay, okay. That makes sense. But what a visual. I can just see these grids now. And
Yeah, it's an easy way to look into it and to try to attune to the grid.
so, and how large is a grid area?
Well, if you imagine, for example, if we focus on one grid system to give your listeners an idea and a visual of what
Mm-hmm.
to expect, if you will, the curry net, like I said, is about 7 meters square.
I'm
It's
sorry, you said that,
orientated
yes.
in a, yeah, and it's orientated in a particular direction. and it's probably in your latitude about 15 centimeters wide. That's what you're dealing with when it comes to the curry net, averagely speaking. Yeah,
Okay.
that's an average.
Okay. Okay. So now I get it now. I'm sorry. I missed the depth there. Ah, all right. So that's quite a few. You could be they could be everywhere on your property with that much around. Is there thank you for the classes and where how to learn this. How difficult is it to learn? Can you do it in an afternoon? And
Well, I would suggest, to get a really good grounding, especially when you're dealing with people's health,
yeah.
you would need a course. I mean,
Oh
if you
yeah.
just want to, do a dowsing workshop somewhere and it isn't dealing with somebody's health, I would say, go ahead and do that. But I do feel that if you're dealing with geopathic stress and going into people's home, a really good dowsing, professional dowsing course would be a way to get qualified in that, really understand it. It's very easy to do, especially if you have an interactive couple of lessons. You can learn these things online. But it's always good to have, either a Skype or a discussion so you can watch the person douse. And like I say, with all these amazing mediums that we have now, it makes, that you can choose your tutor whoever you are on the planet now, whoever you feel that you want to work with. That's the wonderful thing of technology. And a good book, but to combine all of those things is the best way to learn, in my opinion. But
And
everybody could just, Google the curry net and give it a go,
right.
for sure. But I
Right.
think to have a bit of instruction is always, it makes the process far, far easier, for
Oh,
example. And
definitely
there
agree.
are other ways, yeah, and there are other ways to attune to the net as a part of dowsing. So you learn to douse with your body as well as like a dowsing instrument, like a pendulum or
Ah,
dowsing rod. That's how I teach it. I teach it very differently than some standard societies, because I feel it's important to recognize earth energies with a dowsing instrument, but how do they relate to me? How do I sense them? What's their geosignature? And when you start working with different energies like the Carrinet or a ley line, each one feels slightly differently to the other. So you can build up an awareness. So when I go into somebody's home, for example, and I walk around the rooms in quiet contemplation, I'm already recognizing how those energies are making me feel before I even douse anything.
mm. Now you open up curry net. I want to ask about that, but let me go back because there's different types of dowsing. We were talking about water dowsing at one time as well as looking for energies on the earth. So are they very different, or they're just you just learn to sense what's in the earth? I kind of think of it as like a metal detector. You're a natural metal detector or a water detector.
Yeah, with water divining, there is a kind of standard way of doing it, and then there's looking at different sort of types and aspects of water as well.
Mm.
So yes, that's a kind of different to dowsing something like the curry net, but both use very similar principles to get to it. So even though they may seem very, very different, they actually use the same dowsing principles. So you can, say you can water divine, you could divine the curry net. They will use exactly the same types of principles.
All right. And we in America, I think we mostly understood water dowsing as a means if you were a farmer and looking where to put a well. And so we've not really adapted that modern or that old technology to modern use. But you bring up the issue of health. Are there other areas that you want to, I've been aware of electricity poles are going to always cause EMPs in your neighborhood, but are there other things to, it's like a house check and a health check. Is that best way to look at it for personal
Yeah,
use?
yeah. I mean, if we kind of look, water divining and combine that to what we're visualizing in somebody's house with the curry net, well, water's a conductor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an underground stream of, and like I was kind of the first woman, I'm proud to say, in the UK to start talking about divine water compared to non-divine water. And if you have a normal aquifer water that is poured from the clouds and has formed an underground stream in your house, that's carcinogenic to live above.
Hmm.
All water diviners would say that is not good to live above. Now put the curry net on top of that, well, you're conducting two lots of bad energy. So
Ah.
that's something you would look for because they're conductors, especially water, and especially if you lived in a kind of mineral rich
Right.
iron area, which got a lot of iron ore. Do you see what I mean? That's a conductor as well because that's metal. So I would look at underground, as I call it, yang water, and which is normal water falling from the skies, filling up the aquifers, filling up the underground streams. It emits. The reason why it's carcinogenic is because all underground water emits a Hertz frequency signal that
Hmm.
interacts with the Earth's magnetic field because it emits its own magnetic field. That's what's causing the problem with your body.
Ah. We're magnifying it basically by being
Yeah,
on top of
so
it. Oh, wow. Okay, this is
yeah,
now it's
so
really important to know. Okay. Now where does one start in finding
well,
out if yeah.
if you really wanted to, have a kind of go at dowsing, I mean, like I say, you can self teach yourself. You can get a couple of really good basic
Well,
start-off
no,
books.
let me go earlier back. I want to find out where I live and what's if I have any problems. I mean, I'm like I don't feel sick, so but you want to check your water, and I wouldn't know that. Do I have to go to my city planning office and
Oh
look at?
no, I mean a good dowser can tell you all of that.
All right, so you don't need to go
Yeah,
and bring any
yeah.
pre-maps or anything.
No, I mean no, because you can analyze the quality of water by using what a dowsers use as a kind of a dowsing wheel, and you can ascertain the quality of your water like that. You don't really need to know anything about geology. I mean that will help, but I mean you don't really need to know anything like that because dowsing provides the medium for you to decode everything in your home. That's the wonder of it, and that's what makes it very easy and accessible to most people. Anyone can do this with a little bit of teaching and a little bit of grounding. That's all it takes. It's a very easy subject to master.
That is excellent, and I hope this field is growing and that we are seeing more folks coming into it.
Oh, definitely. I think over the past, 10 years, people are becoming very aware of the fact that the Earth is a living being and that this living being that we live above has energies and organs just like what we do. As above and so below, with Gaia and us, her children. So, we fully recognize that, and that's becoming quite common and mainstream. And now that more and more people are realizing this, they're wanting to understand the earth a bit more, for instance, and understand the types of energies that the earth emits and how these influence places like Stonehenge, people like you and I,
Hmm.
and it's a wonderful growing area where people are really responsive to.
I'm very impressed in you mentioned Stonehenge because there has been more attention to it, and recently President Obama was there touching the stones, and you had mentioned in the interview that they have closed it off because people were awakening from touching the stones. So have we have now? Can we have some hope in our U.S. president current that he'll see the light?
Well, Stonehenge is a closed off monument to the general public in kind of 9 to 5 hours, that is for sure, and you can't get near the stones like your president did. That said, if you pay to access Stonehenge privately, you can go into the stones like Obama, but you can't touch them because their excuse is over hundreds of years you get lynchings and all different sorts of um, growing mosses and things on the stones, and that will damage them. That's really a nonsense, because if you look back to photographs of the 1970s, which, obviously my family have had interaction with these monuments for decades now, you can clearly see that they didn't have that then. So for me, I felt very personally, because I was there with Dolores Cannon and Ozark Mountain Publishing for the Winter Solstice 2012. I stood right on the axis line of that, and that monument stirred and from its slumber, and it was like waking up again with 2012. And that's what I felt. And it wasn't just me that felt that, I mean, you're talking a large group of people that shared that experience of being Stonehenge for December 21, 2012. It was a remarkable experience. Now, after that, I noticed that it was getting harder and harder and harder to access Stonehenge. And by access Stonehenge, I don't just mean physically through English heritage. I mean to be able to touch and interact with stones. I was there on, I can't remember, September 9th or something, with a private group, and I was showing them how to douse the energies there. It was cold morning. This was early morning access, so we were there at 6:45 in the morning on the Salisbury Plain in England. That's cold. And there's one particular stone which my late father did a lot of work with, and archaeologists will say it's a tool in effect, meaning that the ancients kind of used a chisel and it's got like a spine. We don't see it as that at all. We see that as like the stone's kind of chakra system. And I said to the people, because their hands were getting cold and we had dowsing rods to hold, just put your hand over this area and you'll feel immense heat start up, and you'll warm your hands up. The security guard came over to me, because now I've got a group of people and it looks like we're going to touch the stones. We didn't have any plan to. We were adhering to the rules there, otherwise you just get thrown out anyway. And he came over and he said, well, I'm often here in the dead of night, freezing. So he had gloves on. He took his gloves off. He said, oh my God, I can feel these energies coming out.
Wow.
And he just kind of looked at me and followed me around and listened to the rest of the tour that I was with. And he was with a disabled lady that came with English heritage. We did a healing thing for her there. And he actually said, I was with a shaman a couple of weeks ago, and Stonehenge and these places can assist easily in manifestation. So it's interesting Obama went there. And even this security guard, burly bloke, as we say over here, very much a man's man, said things manifest here. If you have a wish, you've got to be very careful what you're thinking at Stonehenge. You have to go in there consciously to work with the energies and to understand the energy, so you can benefit yourself and humanity by interacting with these places. That's what they don't tell you.
Yes, and that's an amazing testimony from the security guard to tell you, be careful what you're thinking, because it'll manifest. And if he's he's seeing it, I'm like, okay. Now, there are more Stonehenge type monuments in the UK. I understood there was like 48 of them, or numerous of them. Or so are they all being cordoned off?
No, I mean, there's only one Stonehenge that's actually designed like Stonehenge. Right. There are lots stone circles, none of which have lintels on the top like Stonehenge. That is unique. But there are other circles. Most of the other stone circles, like Avebury Henge, which is 17 miles to the north of Stonehenge, and it contains the world's largest stone circle, is free to the public. But this year, they're monitoring who goes in by putting kind of 2 metal plates on the gate. So they're starting to monitor how many people are going in that monument, and it's free. You can go there day or night. It is an immensely energetic place where you have male and female earth currents uniting as one in an alchemic marriage that flow through the center of Avebury Henge. So Avebury Henge will bring balance into our life. It can bring harmony into our lives, and it can be very, very healing. It's much more gentle than Stonehenge. This is the feminine side. Stonehenge is quite, in a way, if we have to label things, and we shouldn't pigeonhole stone circles, especially not Stonehenge, but if we do, then it's slightly more masculine than Avebury, if you see what I mean. If we imagine that Stonehenge is the sun and Avebury is a moon, then we kind of visualize its celestial counterparts through its earth energies that are emitted through the earth there.
I understand. So, well, good. There's another place to go. And let's going back to other locations on the planet. Okay, stone circles are not enough. And as I went off adventuring here in northern Thailand to look for that vortex in the land here, it was really just trying to, an interesting shift of the eye and trying to be aware of energies to see what is the land trying to tell me and speak to me. So when these and I was surprised there was no monuments or someone hadn't done something already in the area. So are there places on the planet that still are awakening that people can get to?
Well, if we imagine, that the Earth is, a gigantic being, then the ancients were fully aware of the major power places. Let's imagine that by your heart and your liver and your
Mm-hmm.
lungs, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you have lots of different smaller elements within you. And it's those smaller elements that manifest, and interlace the planet everywhere. They may not be as strong as, certain other areas. Of course not. You can't. That's how it is. And the ancients mapped out the world a millennia ago and realized the power places there. But nonetheless, you could, be for example, in your garden, you could have a small vortex. You could have a large one for all I know. But you will have some type of earth energy because just like looking at your finger compared to the rest of your body, yeah, one finger, you have an awful lot going on in that one finger. You have veins, you have muscles, you have sensors, yeah. So if you imagine where you live, it's like a very small part of Gaia, but it's still alive, still having
Mm,
energies that you can tap into, then that's how you could visualize how you could work with our One Mother.
understood. Beautiful. So what do you recommend people do then with their little piece of Gaia?
Well, I mean, the wonderful thing about our homes is we can make anywhere sacred, can't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah.
We can make anywhere sacred with love in our hearts and with a little bit of just that intent that you want to make a change and understand where you are. So no matter where you are, it could be an apartment, it could be a house, it could be a mansion, you could have a garden. I would say, go out there. For a start, have a bit of fun with dowsing. Yeah, don't get too serious to begin with. It opens up a whole world. Have a bit of fun. Get yourself, a standard L rod. You can look that up on Google, and just start walking around. It doesn't matter what you're picking up on to begin with. We can leave that to decode later. But literally, just start to walk around your house with a dowsing rod and see if you can get, some reactions. That's the first thing I say to people is have fun with it. Yeah. Then we can start to easily decode what you find because grid systems come in a particular orientation. Yeah, so all you need is a compass to find out which orientation that is. And then later you can start to interpret, is it underground water? Is it this? Is it that? But
Okay.
I'd say go out into your gardens or go upstairs in your bedroom if you've got a good old fashioned wire coat hanger, as we call over here, bend it into an L shape and get out there. Have a
Okay.
go.
Okay. Just try it. That's the way
Just
to do
try
it.
it to begin with,
All
yeah, and
right.
see how you get on with it. See if you can get some reactions, and then once you kind of think, oh well, look, I got a reaction. My God, and a reaction is if you get these metal coat hangers. Let's just pretend we've got up to the bedroom. We've
Right.
destroyed two hangers, and now we're holding two bits of metal in an L shape. Yeah, always be in that kind of relaxed frame of mind, open to something, really kind of relaxed. So you're not going to, douse in a bad mood or something. You
Right.
get the picture.
Right.
And then put them parallel to the ground, pointing straight ahead and parallel to ground. So it's like you're holding two kind of pistols, if you like, pointing forward. Oh, that's not the best analogy
Right.
to use, but nonetheless, it gives us a visual, and that's called search mode. Yeah. So as you walk around with your two rods pointing straight ahead and parallel to the ground, that's search. Now, when they found something, we're not going to worry what that is. It could be underground water, it could be a grid line, it could be a ley line, whatever. We're not going to worry about that when we first start. What will happen is the two rods will either cross slightly or they go right in to cross to touch, like the chest area, or they will repulse away from you, yeah, go push outwards. And that's found. That means the rods have detected something in the ground, yeah.
Cool.
So that's how you can start off by just thinking, well, I'm going to get my two rods, I'm going to put them in search, and what happens? And look to what happens.
Okay. I have my rods, so I'm ready to go, and I'm having fun with them. Now,
Yeah.
let's expand from the personal to the global and talk about Gaia and war in particular, and how we can do work to shift that. And what, because one of the things that Peter purported in his initial video was do a circle of love intention with a love making act around war or a place of violence. And I've thought about that and thought, well, that's not easy to do necessarily, in trying to get a flash mob together or some kind of thing. But I also thought, well, what if we went around those central points like Washington, D.C. or the Pentagon, and where people are planning wars and looking at strategies to work like that? Any thoughts on that?
Well, how I think is a very easy way to put positive intent, whether that's anti-war, to raise consciousness, is to work with the Earth's inner waters because, like water is a conductor, it has memory. And if you just, wherever you are, imagine and just visualize in a moment, that there's underground water near enough everywhere, yeah. Even in deserts, you get underground water, yeah. And just putting that kind of intent into the underground water, it will memorize that, and it will really start to react to your thought forms. Especially if we look at places, like Afghanistan, like Syria, that are war-torn areas, and to visualize, emanating, coming up from that underground water is more peace and more calm,
Mm,
for example. And they're really, really easy things that you can tap into, but you're not doing it alone. You're tapping into Gaia's boundless inner oceans, yeah? So you're
ah,
working with something. It's not just your intent. And that underground water is so responsive to any type of thought, so put love into that, put calm into that. And then you're working with a planetary body. And don't let us not forget, Gaia is 4 billion years old. She will react to her children. She will react to everything, and her inner waters, especially, are so conductive.
I remember hearing someone say, Mother Gaia knows every one of us. And I went, oh, yes. What a thought, that not, she hasn't lost track of any of us. And when we think of water has intelligence, um, you realize how boundless that is and how amazing that power is.
Oh
Awesome.
yeah, and all the streams interconnect. I mean,
Ah,
at one point, that it's like an interconnection system that create giant oceans within the Earth. I mean, massive oceans. I mean, I've been saying this for years, and it's absolutely fantastic that scientists are actually finally catching up with old divine in law, may I say, It's a wonderful thing. Now you've got a left-right brain approach. And Peking, for example, I mean modern day Beijing, that was its kind of older imperial name. That's under a massive, massive ocean. Yeah. So when we kind of, even if we work with a tiny, tiny little stream that we visualize beneath our feet, for example, remember that's going to join a massive ocean, just like streams on the surface join the vast oceans of the planet. Everything interconnects eventually.
That's wonderful to know. Now that we are seeing more awakening and more manifestation, what are you seeing is our next phase of growth? As I said, I have heard statistics that we were last heard is at 18% awakening. What's next?
Well, I feel once, the majority of people, have some kind of conscious awareness of who they are and where they are and become responsive to, the needs of other people, we start to realize that we are one big family. And I think once that comes, we will come together as humanity, and that to me would be, a beautiful thing. So I don't see it as being kind of one thing. Eventually, we will interconnect with each other. But there's that this is a road that we're on. And the amazing thing is when we travel this road of consciousness and working with one another and become tolerant of one another and loving to one another, it increases that kind of energy in our lives, and we share that. And that's what I think a lot of us are doing. We're building up a kind of awareness, and sometimes that takes tolerance. Even for the most spiritual people, you have to be tolerant and loving with one another.
Yes.
And that is our first baby steps for humanity to come together hand in hand and heart to heart.
Are you looking for any major shifts to happen? I feel, everything feels very fast, so things are moving fast. But when I think of the planet, I'm like, no, it's, every day makes its day. Um, and takes its time. And one of the things I've been challenged to understand is fourth and fifth dimension, when time and space are just another thing we identify, but we don't feel bound by it. It's trying to incorporate all of this information and use it for our best good and to heal ourselves and the planet. And so when I look at this world of geomancy, I go, all right, how do I best use it for myself, and how do I best use it to heal the planet and share? And you beautifully said it by, when we awaken, let's put our intention in the water and where we stand, and using that on a daily basis, and connecting. But connecting is another work. We'll have to talk about getting along with each other in another video. That's that's a whole nother
Yeah.
work. But connecting to our first relationship, which is our planet.
Well, exactly, and I think these are very simple things that we can do. And bear in mind, Gaia isn't solid; she is made up more of water. Bear in mind, you're not solid. I'm not solid. We're 75% water.
Right.
So when we start working with the energies of Gaia, and let's say for example, we found some really beautiful inner waters of the earth that's born within Gaia, independent of rainfall, yin water, if you will, and what I call it, then that will interact with your body water. So we can use the earth's replenishing. And don't forget, governments say we're going to run out of water. Any good old-fashioned water diviner will tell you that this inner water that the earth produces is perpetual. It will never stop. It's
Oh, no.
perpetual.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful.
So it's not a case of there's only x amount of water on the planet. That's just a nonsense. But let's say we found this amazing kind of harmonic surface pattern of this type of underground water, easy to douse. I've got some lovely visuals of that in my latest book, which is called Divine and Ancient Sites: Insight into Their Creation, available on my website, or you can have a look at my article on yin water on my website, which is www.theaveryexperience.co.uk. You can have a look at these. But let's say, for example, we found it. Well, then we can start to cleanse our own body waters, and that gives you a sense of rejuvenation, a sense of being, cleansed from the inside out. It's a bit like having a bath, the opposite way around. You're
Nice.
not washing your outer skins. You're working with the earth's harmonic energies to cleanse your body water. And everybody that goes through that cleansing effect, you will do something. Your body will naturally do something when it has replenished and it has cleansed. And we have found over the past five or so years, when we've been working intimately with the earth's water and our own body water, it certainly helps the body to heal itself. And it's like just another kind of tool that we can use for our health that is free. You could have spiral patterns. It's called a geospiral pattern. In a park, in a garden, they interlace the planet. Like I said, they're not going to be the massive ones like at Stonehenge. They're going to interlace the planet somewhere. And it doesn't even have to be surface water. It could be, 10, 15 miles deep below the earth. That's how dowsers for generations have recognized where that underground water is, not through the surface water necessarily, but through the harmonic surface pattern it emits. And that's what we can work with. That's what has the perpetual energy that can cleanse, heal, and we should embrace that.
That is phenomenal. And for that alone, I want to see a dowser in every community. And that, because that is an important piece as we rebuild, that we rebuild with Gaia and with the information that is here on the planet. And I firmly believe that once we get to the awakening, next is the remembering.
Exactly, and I think that's again where we can really tap into the wisdom of the earth inner waters, of which I'm a pioneer of, because water has, you mentioned it yourself, it's a well-known fact. Water has memory, doesn't it?
Yes, indeed. And I'm like,
So
oh,
yeah, you go to an ancient site, for example, yeah. Say,
yeah,
let's just choose Stonehenge because everybody can visualize what that looks like quite easily.
right.
Well, that's containing all of the memories of everything that went before, millennia and millennia and millennia ago. It's like the Earth's Akashic records is another aspect of the underground water that we can tap into to try and get a little bit more wisdom, for example, to try and understand ourselves, like you said, to remember that which was and what will be again. We
Mm.
can use water in so many beautiful and harmonic ways to enhance our lives and to kind of tap into that part of us, that DNA, if you will, that remembers all that was. We all have
Mm.
a collective memory, yeah, just like the
Yeah.
Earth. Gaia is remembering what her sister Moon did. Gaia remembers what Mercury did, what Venus is about, because they're a family. We are a family with the Earth, and we too can remember on a celestial, terrestrial level.
Beautiful. Ah, my heart is enlarged. Thank you for that. We're going to wrap up, but I want to ask if you would. As I think about, we touch water in so many ways on a daily basis and are not conscious that we are communicating with a living entity. So, is there ways that we can, a mantra or a meditation for the shower or when we're washing our hands, that we can just, I like the simple triggers. A simple thank you is always good for me, but to remind ourselves the value and the importance of connecting with the water.
Yeah, again, it's like you say, you can keep things simple. We can bless. Yeah, blessed water that goes, even after a bath, put that love into that water, or put violet light. The water really loves violet light. That's what makes it really, really, really harmonic. You can always tell really fresh water will always emit what's called a violet frequency. So we can put that back in the water. It'll make it feel alive and refreshed. Or we can simply bless that water, say thank you, and always with love in your heart. You don't necessarily need a mantra, just that kind of energy of, I'm embracing the water of my planet, my own body water, and together we can love.
And tell me, how do we put violet light?
Just imagine, like, say, for example, experiment with this. Get a glass of, water, whether that's, from a bottle or from your house, yeah? And hold preferably a glass because you want to see your hand around it. Get a glass of water basically. Hold it in what you feel is your giving hand. What you could put energy out with, and don't think about it. Just do whatever feels natural, basically. So hold it with one hand, and you can just either use your other hand to place over the top of the glass, or you can just visualize that water, that clear substance, having violet light put into it, yeah, or just get a piece of violet card, from a gift store or something, and put the water over the violet and see if it tastes a little bit different after a couple of hours of applying violet to that simple glass of water. And I think that you'll find just by doing that, it seems a little bit different. Play around with these ideas. Don't listen to me about it. Go out there and introduce violet into the water through visualization or physically through a piece of violet card or a violet colored crystal like amethyst, for example.
Yes.
It's about color correspondences and color harmonics, and the water does respond very well to violet, and it's a color that is quite a divine feminine color as well. It's a high chakra color, and in terms of water divine, it's a high harmonic color.
That's cool. Now, I was just watching a video from a YouTube channel called Suspicious Observer, and they did a interview with a scientist on water, and he identified and has changed how we think of water. It's instead of three forms, it has four, and that fourth one is a solid, but it's in between what we called ice and solid and liquid. It's the fourth phase, and
Or
it
phase
you
of
of
yeah.
water, and it has that violet deep blue color. And that's how they said that's how you can see it. You can see that when it hits that phase. And I'm like, so it's the left brain has again matched what the diviners have already known. So
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's again how I was taught from a very early age how to, recognize good water. It's
mm,
very easy to do. You can ascertain your own water, or for those that want a consultation with me. I mean,
hmm
I teach all of this on Skype, for example. I can give consultations on Skype and get you actively doing things in your own home with, consultation appointments, or or go for a course or something. These things are really easy. You don't need to be a professor
good.
talking about the fourth phase of water. You can be in your own home, just like me, an average person, and understand it through a simple technique of a pendulum and a bit of paper. That's how easy it is.
I love it. Well, but my sister, I must say, you are anything but normal and average. So thank you for being you and the beauty that you have brought to the planet. So I'm tickled to death. And what I love about your work, it is the most practical, and it is the foundations that we are standing on. And we have been deceived that that foundation is a piece of cement. No, it's Gaia, and let's understand where we're at. And I thank you for enlightening us on that information so we can go look and figure out what we got going on. And where are you next? What's going on with you next in your work?
Well, I'm focusing on, I really love teaching people how to, live in harmony with the earth. So I've got quite a few courses
Hmm.
that I have by Skype. I'm going to be doing some webinars in the future. I really love people to interact and feel the energy. So I offer, like I said earlier, ley line tours and dowsing workshops that are fun. And we travel along a ley in the footsteps of our ancestors, calling off all these ancient temple spaces to interact with Gaia's most profound healing and active energies known throughout southern England. And
Mm.
that's a real love of mine. So I call them my lay tours, which come with a certificate on dowsing as well, because it will be like a great fun holiday, but being taught all these amazing things about water and the earth. And we always attract a very loving, kind, supportive group. And that's will be on my website when it's updated, probably by mid-October. And that's called Walking into Light Tour, because we're following that ley line east from the west coast of England, right to the esoteric centre, Averyhenge, and we're walking eastward into the light of the sun symbolically. So I call that Walking into Light ley
Ah,
line tour.
beautiful, beautiful. I need to get you to travel more. Now I'm not in the U.S., so I'm saying come to Asia or come to other parts of the world. Is there a international group that gets together?
That's a very good question, actually, Phyllis. And while I don't really know the answer to it, there may well be. I think a lot of the kind of Dowsing societies are either British, Italian. Because I write for the American Dowsing Society, I
Hmm.
lecture for obviously the British Society of Dowsers. I also work in Italy, and but they all seem to have their own groups. Do you see what
Mm.
I'm saying?
Yes,
As far as
yes.
my awareness is. And that's a lovely concept that, perhaps, the dowsing communities could embrace and come together. That would certainly be a wondrous thing.
Is it an international not phenomenon, but a practice that has been practiced around the world?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, if
Okay.
you go back to some of the early cave paintings, for instance, depicting dowsing, I mean, they're up to, 10,000 years old, 6,000 at least, So we've lived with this for ever since we have become conscious, I believe, conscious people, so to
Right.
speak.
Amazing, amazing. All right. Well, I feel like I got my 101, but or my intro, and I'm ready for a course. So I would love to have you back again, and like to offer a course in the future with Goddess University and have you back to, so we can teach folks around the world. And I'm going, how can I do that with multiple languages? That's my next challenge, but we'll work on that, and I'll work on that from my end because I have to at least get you in three languages. So let me work on that, and I will get back with you. But I'd love to have you teach a class for us.
That would be wonderful, Phyllis. Thanks for the invite, and we'll get that together at some point, definitely.
I'd
Let's
love.
change the world, sister.
Yeah. All right. It's our turn to do so, and with my brothers, because we got some work to do, and we can't do it by ourselves. And I am grateful that you are on the planet. And I had Mother Ayahuasca kind of yell at me to gather the indigo, so I went, "Yes, ma'am, I'm on it." So thank you again for just being yourself, my sister, and I will be in touch and look forward to sharing more.
Definitely, it's been wonderful. Thanks for having me on the show.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And I should have this up within a week. I'm going to be traveling. I just got invited to attend a mystery school, about 2 hours north of here. So I'm going to be taking a Kabbalah course and Thelema course, and learning all about Aleister Crowley next, which I don't know anything about him. So I went, okay. So I excited about that, but I want to get this finished before I start something new. So I will get this done and be in touch soon.
It's a pleasure. It's been a wonderful pleasure talking to you today, Phyllis. And we'll keep in touch about, doing some webinars and things in the future. That would be wonderful. And have a fantastic time on the course. Alistair Crowley, of course, he was a British black magician. Uh,
Yes.
so,
Yes.
uh, enjoy whatever teachings that you have, and keep up your good work by being informative and putting all this stuff out.
Thank you, my sister. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Okay, you take care.
All righty. Bye bye.
See ya. Bye.